Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tell Me Everything Fraud Girl Fridays. I'm your host, Danielle Spinelli. Today, I have Officer Jay on with us. This is actually going to be like a dual series with myself and then That's Delivered podcast. If you guys have not listened to their podcast, I highly suggest it. I'm going to link them in here too. They're coming out with an episode, I think it'll be right after mine. So I may have to link it a little bit later. But be sure to check out their page as well because he's going to be doing a part 2. Jay is a DOT officer in PA, and the things that he sees like on an inspection stop and things like that kind of does definitely correlate. Like I always say, like safety can correlate a lot with cargo theft. A lot of times these bad actors who are doing bad things, they're not taking care of their trucks and they're not doing the right thing because they're trying to make as much money with as little investment as possible for their ROI, right? We're all in the business for ROI. They're a business too. So Jay's going to talk about that on our episode. But whenever you check out the That's Delivered podcast, you'll see on he talks more about like as far as a carrier side and like how the DOT inspection happens and the safety stuff. So he'll be talking about that kind of behind the badge with them. So like I said, I'm going to link that. Here's the little image that's coming out. I'm going to throw that up here too, so you guys can see that and be on the lookout. Like I said, we'll tag all that together. But a quick shout out to our sponsor, Tallgrass Freight. If you guys are a broker agent or a broker looking to become an agent, make all that moolah out there, I highly suggest this is a great home for everybody to be a part of. I know I talk about this on every single episode, but I, like I said, would not have just picked any sponsor. And I'm so happy that they decided to be part of it because these guys are just so awesome. So anyways, if you guys want to learn more, reach out to tme@tallgrassfreight.com. I will put that as well below. So if you guys want to reach out, even just to find out information, maybe you're a W-2 agent, you're like, I don't even know how to become I'm a W-2 like carrier or customer sales rep and I'm wanting to become an agent. How do I even do that? Like what even happens? Reach out to them and they can kind of give you some information. At least it's good to hear all the things. One other ask that I will have from you guys is if you guys are enjoying the podcast, either Fraud Girl Fridays or on the Tell Me Everything Tuesdays, be sure to like, subscribe, follow. If you guys are on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate me. That would be really great too. I guess that helps with like my algorithm and getting this out to more people and I guess kind of just boosting it. I have a goal. One day I really do need to show my vision board on the background because I have a goal. I want to hit certain followers. I know it's not all about followers, but I just, kind of a goal. So help me out. I'd appreciate it. Anyways, let's jump in it. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I'm so pumped for this. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
Good morning. I guess let's take like a really quick second, have you introduce yourself. And then I'm so excited to jump into all the things. Like we met at TAPA. And so we talked, had a long conversation about what you guys are going through up in PA. So can't wait to talk. But yeah, if you'll do a quick second to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. My name's Jay Mancuso. I'm a traffic safety supervisor up here in Pennsylvania for a municipality right on the border of New Jersey. Multiple interstates intersect in my jurisdiction. And I've been doing truck enforcement for about 8 years now and delving into cargo theft and just a bunch of different things that law enforcement are seeing out here on the road and trying to do just a little bit of good and help prevent some dangerous things from going on in our country. Been a police officer 21 years, traffic safety supervisor, assigned to truck inspections. And I'm just out here trying to do a little bit of good and build a bridge between the law enforcement community and the trucking industry and see if we can prevent some pretty dangerous things that are occurring out here on our roadways.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I know I'm very passionate about is like there is so many different officers out there that don't know anything about cargo theft. So part of my mission with Fraud Girl too is like how do we teach everybody who can't go to a classroom and can't go to different training because they're on the road doing things? Like, how do we get to talk to them about like what to look for, how to investigate those things? Would you say it is a lot different investigating like a cargo theft versus like a, I don't know, regular theft, or do you handle things a little bit differently with that, or is it something similar?
So absolutely. And, to backtrack a little bit, nobody comes out of the police academy or says, I want to be a police officer and investigate cargo theft. It's not a real glamorous type of thing.
Yeah.
So, life takes us all in different paths. Same thing for the police officers out there doing cargo theft or investigating cargo theft. And I would say that the truck guys, and girls, the men and women that are in law enforcement that are inspecting trucks, know about the trucking industry. So they're the ones to really go to. So I would say that, preventative measures and preparedness as a trucking company, what I would recommend is the time to build these relationships is prior to having a problem.
Right.
So you can reach out to your local municipality, wherever your shipping company is. If you're a broker, if you're a trucker, and you live in a municipality or you do a lot of work in that municipality or county or state, you can reach out wherever you're based. Call the local police department, call the state police, and reach out and say, hey, I want to get an email for a guy that investigates trucks or an officer that investigates trucks or inspects trucks. And that's your first thing to preventative measures. Not a lot of officers know about these types of things, and it's not very glamorous. So yeah, reach out if you're a trucking company, if you're shipping a lot of merchandise, because the last thing you want to do is lose cargo and not have anyone to call, or try and call 911 or a non-emergency number and get a patrol officer that doesn't know anything about it and just files a report and it waits till the
Right.
morning. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of dollars of your merchandise is currently disappearing. As you know, Danielle, I'm a member of a team up here in Eastern Pennsylvania. A lot of men and women that are working diligently. And as I do this podcast, texts and emails are constantly coming in about different cargo that's being taken. And the things that shippers and carriers and brokers can do pre-theft to help us is tremendous.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk about a few things related to
Yeah.
that.
No, for sure. That would be very helpful. And yeah, like just a shout out to TAPA and CargoNet. Those are the two organizations that I know that do a really good job at bringing in law enforcement officers so that you guys can learn more, you guys can network, and then for us and in the logistics community to be able to like network as well, because it is hard sometimes meeting the right type of people. But I do think you're definitely right. We're knowing your local area, or as you even onboard new shippers, even figuring out who that, like if you have a shipper in California, find out what area in California would be handling that cargo theft and things like that. But yeah, if you want to touch on like things that, like, let's say I do have a theft coming in and I do call you, like, I talk about this with CHP a lot too, because sometimes people will call them and just give them like very little information. They don't want to tell them very much because they're scared about, the repercussions from like the shipper or something. But what is the best thing to help you guys actually solve a case? Or because sometimes the freight's gone and like they call way too late. So like, what's some things that people could do to help you guys out?
Sure. So the biggest thing for me, Roadside, and as you can tell, I'm Roadside now. Like when I'm looking at different trucks, paperwork is key, and the preventative measures that you can do to potentially train your dock workers or the managers to prevent certain things. The things that we know, like when a driver will get called mid-delivery and say, we're diverting this cargo here.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to prevent cargo theft or to investigate cargo theft when the paperwork is not correct. The other thing is when I have a roadside stop, everything for me starts out with safety. It's such a broad topic, but I am out there to try and be safe. And my job is to, or at least what I think is to take the most dangerous truck that I can find that day, potentially off the road, or educate and get truck drivers to make their vehicles safer. But what my team calls them are anomalies. And when we do training and we have conferences, we talk about anomalies in things that we see roadside. And just because you have one anomaly or two anomalies doesn't mean that you're a bad trucking company or a bad truck driver. What it means is that these are red flags that click over. And when I see 4, 5, 6 red flags and I start to see a bunch of different things that don't make sense, and it could be just a feeling in my gut, or, everybody goes through life and they get certain things where this doesn't seem right. And when you see thousands of trucks and you're like, this doesn't seem right, one anomaly can be explained. The biggest thing with the paperwork is if I don't have that paperwork, I can't investigate it. The anomalies aren't there for me to see. And then also, I've had a lot of trucks where I have to have a phone number of somebody I can call and get them on the phone, and through law enforcement techniques, verify they're legitimately the company and say, hey, look, I have your cargo roadside here. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Why is this occurring? And a lot of times it can be explained. A lot of times I get companies that are like, no, that's not correct. That shouldn't be that way. And then I can take my time. I can start to really delve in and investigate things along with my team and the other network that we've been able to build and backtrack it. So, the preparedness and prevention is your dock workers. Like if you know that your cargo or your shipment is going to go 8 hours away, little questions that you can do as a shipper to go, okay, hey, what's going on with this? How much drive time do you have? This is a 7-hour haul. Also explain to that driver, this little conversation that you might be having or lack of could prevent that driver from receiving a phone call or an email 3 hours later and saying, divert this cargo 3 hours that way.
Right.
Just, hey, look, this is where it's going. These are the documents, and under no circumstances are you to divert this cargo. Explain that to them. And the trucker might go, okay, that makes sense, or call this number if somebody tells you to do this. The little things that you can do, the little things that you can analyze are huge. And then if something does happen, you have the proper information to call the contacts you have within the industry on the law enforcement side and go, hey, we were able to determine that within 45 minutes, this cargo is not going where it needs to go. Can you help me find a local law enforcement officer or an entire patrol division to have a bolo and look out for these certain things? So I think that's very important.
So safety, I feel like safety and cargo theft do kind of go hand in hand as far as what you guys see on the road. Like, for instance, from what I've heard from other officers is like a lot of times the bad actors who are actually physically stealing the freight, not just diverting and like hiring a good actor, but the ones who are like actually the bad guys driving the freight, a lot of times they like don't know how to really drive. Like they don't know how to back into even like a dock, or they don't know how to handle just certain like little, I don't really know all the things like that drivers know, but they don't know all the little things. Are you seeing the kind of same type of thing where like if somebody's like very blatant and clearly don't even know how to really drive, do you see some of that correlation with like actual things getting stolen and them getting taken advantage of in that way, or them being a bad guy in on it?
So what I see is, again, this is just my perspective.
Yeah.
Is that, you have these larger companies and they're pretty squared away. They might have safety violations, but, they're professional drivers. I think when you're in that element of theft, you're not going to care about certain things. You're going to neglect other things. And, I like to think of, and there's probably multiple facets of it, but in my realm, it's two types of theft. We have the fraud element where there's a fraudulent pickup and they're taking your cargo. There's the fraud element where you have a legitimate driver that's scammed and taking your cargo elsewhere. And then the third type is you have a legitimate driver where he leaves with the cargo, but he needs to stop for rest breaks. He needs to stop for meals. And he leaves the trailer at a truck area or an unsecured yard or an area. And the cargo is, the container's opened and they take the cargo. The one that, I don't want to use the word most concerned about, but the one that is best at preventative measures and best for us to investigate is the fraud aspect. I can't, we can get lucky, or we can try and stop things at certain cargo areas or holdovers or trucking centers with extra patrol, but we can't really stop a rogue person that's going to go open a trailer and take some of the cargo out. And it might just be, luck of the draw. What's in here? We don't know what's in here, but that's the one. But the one that is the best to be investigated or the best to be prevented is the ability and the ability to stop the fraud. So, if you're a shipper and you have a warehouse or you have multiple warehouses or you're national, train your dock workers. The preventative measures are, we have trucks coming in, we have a good relationship with our broker, or it's the first time using the broker. Ask questions, go to that broker and be like, hey, what driver is coming? Do you have a license? Is it this person? So that way, right off the gate, if the right person shows up. Now, look, there's anomalies, like I talked about, and you might have somebody that shows up and it's not the driver, but that's where you slow down a little bit. And I understand time is money, but you slow down, you go, you know what? Let me verify this. A lot of different anomalies, and they're not saying that they're bad truck drivers or they're bad carriers or bad brokers. But one of the big things, and it correlates with me, is temporary registrations, ghosting. And ghosting is multiple different letterings that have been taken off the truck, put back on the truck. Do we have a non-permanent DOT? Do we have a piece of paper with a Sharpie?
Yeah.
Do we have old tape that, every week they're taking off this DOT number and they're replacing it with another one? That's a red flag. A temporary registration, again, it's not illegal, but why do they have a temporary registration?
The zip, as always, the zip tied. Always.
Yeah, they have, exactly. They have applications where you can scan a barcode and the information will come up. Does the VIN match? Will the driver let you take a photograph of the VIN plate in the door or the VIN sticker on the door? Getting the registrations, getting anything that driver will give you. Because we know that it's the path of least resistance. If these people know that this is an easy one to steal from and they can steal cargo every month, they're going to. If they know that they tried one time, it didn't jive and the shipper refused to send it, or the information wasn't matching up. So it's the work that can be done in the beginning that's so important. And you talk about Tappa, like I was blown away at Tappa, because when you talk about cargo theft, when we networked after and I was able to talk to some industries, and I'm not going to mention the industries, but I said, well, how much cargo do you have taken every year? And, as you went around, it's like, okay, we lose this, we lose that. And we got the one industry and they're like, we never lose it. If we lose a load of our cargo, we have major problems. So it's all about what they're doing and the amount of defense or the amount of work you'll make the criminals go through.
Totally. They definitely end up on a list somewhere where it's like, hey, this guy's easy to pop and this guy's harder and you got to do this, this, and this. And like they know your stuff. Like they do a lot of like investigating on their end. Now, as far as like you guys actually like making arrests and stopping people or finding stolen freight, are you seeing it's like typically somebody tied to, like I was just listening to another podcast. It was actually with my guys I know in Arizona, but they were talking about how typically like whoever they end up arresting typically only knows like 2 levels above, because it's a lot more organized than what we have found out basically as we've been going on. So like they only know like 2 levels above. So it's like as far as like getting to the top of like how do we actually stop this? Kind of like the drug organizations happen. Are you guys seeing something similar in PA, or is it just kind of more of like a snatch and grab and luck of the draw? I guess, what are you guys normally seeing there?
It's not so much the luck of the draw. I mean, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. There's a lot of dedicated individuals, men and women officers, different agencies, municipal, county, state, and federal. But as for me, as for what I'm doing and the intel that I'm getting and trying to locate these different things and connect the dots. Once that happens for me, or if I'm a small part of it, it goes above my head. And, like I'm clearly roadside here. Yeah. I'm gathering information, or there's sharing information. And it's like, okay, we believe that this cargo is going this way, or we believe that this ring is operating in the northeast section of the country. And I'll shoot that information out to my patrol officers. I'll go through reports. And I'll be like, has anybody seen anything similar? I might shoot it to surrounding agencies and go, yeah, this matches. And then I can put that little piece of the puzzle in. But as far as when it's crossing interstate lines, it usually gets kicked up to the federal agencies and the ability for them to do what they do. Every officer has their own little piece to play. But if I can put one little piece of the puzzle together and then we can take down that organization, unfortunately, there's always another organization that seems to pop up.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem we have now.
For sure. Yeah. And speaking of like at the FBI and stuff in the federal level, I know PA has a great program there. Like they're probably one of the best that I've seen as far as in the country. So you guys do have a good network there of being able to, rely on different resources. I know whenever we talked, I met like whenever you guys were down here in Atlanta, we were talking about even like the auto theft ring of things too, and like the auto hauling carriers. Cause I think that's something that's for a long time, auto hauling carrier or brokers and stuff didn't feel like they were getting hit that hard. Cause it's, it's considered grand theft auto. It's stricter punishment than just like a load of, I don't even know, whatever load of cargo. So I know we talked about a little bit about that. So I don't know what stories you want to share or don't want to share, but I know you were saying whenever we were, or your team was talking about it, I guess it wasn't just you, but just about like how you guys are able to find different things and then see them driving and then they chop cars or they do whatever.
Sure.
I guess if you want to talk about that, that's up to you. Like we can cut this whole thing out if you don't want to. Totally up to you.
Nah, absolutely. I mean, so again, it starts out with safety. So I go out roadside and I'm like, okay, I'm going to accomplish something today I'm going to find unsafe trucks and unsafe drivers. And I'm going to stop them. I'm going to issue violations and I'm going to try and educate this person. But like those anomalies, there's certain things I look for. And, car haulers with high-end cars, we're talking, everybody knows what a high-end car, like a super high-end car. So I see that and I'm like, okay, so if that happens to be my stop and I try and check the paperwork, a lot of times it doesn't add up. So you're seeing these high-end cars being sent from one section of the country to another section of the country, and you potentially see them off route. A lot of things don't add up with the driver, the hours of service, the safety in which this vehicle is being transported. So when I delve into those and, I contact another member of my team and we're working together, we're talking to the state police, we're talking to their auto theft unit. There's a whole group that gets involved as I'm roadside. Now, wherever that leads me over the next hour to 2 hours and how that driver is responding, a lot of times those drivers will, back off or they will distance themselves from it. because again, they know when the gig's up. I mean, we're all educated. They're educated. The criminal element is educated. The law enforcement element is educated. So when you run into that, they're backing up. They're distant. I don't know. They start to give me a lot of I don't knows. So we're able to backtrack through how many times this car's been sold, who's it's sold to. We're able to contact the dealer. Again, super important. If I can't get in touch with somebody at the dealership or the dealership's closed, big problem for me. If it's not on the shipping papers, there should always be a way for law enforcement roadside to get in touch with somebody, especially because now you might have a $400,000 car that is being stolen, and you're not going to find out this car is stolen because maybe it's going to take 2 days to arrive there. Maybe I stopped this person 4 hours after they picked it up from your dealership. So now that car has got, a day and a half to wind up in a shipping container and end up anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Revind. So again, it all starts with safety, and there's so many different things. There's narcotics, there's human trafficking, there's cargo theft, there's chameleon carriers, there's fraudulent registrations, insurance. So again, it all starts out simple. And then because of repetitive training and repetitive stops, you start to see the anomalies. And one anomaly doesn't matter, but 3, 4, 5, it leads into, okay, hey, let me click over from just a regular safety stop because I have this issue already, these safety issues. However, there's a lot of anomalies. Let me make a phone call. Let me get somebody that I know in the law enforcement world with expertise in this area. And we will start taking all the paperwork, logs, everything that we have as a whole, and we will start to backtrack slowly. We'll slow it down and we'll conduct a very thorough investigation. So super, super important stuff.
Yeah. And are you guys seeing where like things are like multiple transactions are being like done with one, or like multiple thefts are happening with like one ring or one driver or one carrier? Or because like you mentioned like the chameleon carriers, you see that too, I'm sure, where it's almost like a network that they
Sure.
operate in. I know we see that on our side. On the road, like with the safety, are you sometimes seeing like the same drivers with like, or the same truck with like different decals? And like, do you guys see that on your end as well? And then if you do, or like you suspect something like that, there's like a level of it being legal and then a level of being illegal. So it's hard to, like, for you can't just say like, okay, this guy now has this VIN with this other license plate, or he now has this decal on the side. It's hard to say like, hey, that's not legal, right? Because they can technically operate under different entities.
Sure.
Or like that's confusing, I guess, for me. It's like, how do you know whenever the license plate it's crazy to me to think that a license plate can get swapped, because as a consumer, like a regular vehicle, I can't just swap my license plate with another license plate. That would be illegal. So why is it where that could happen? And does that make sense? Does my question make sense?
It absolutely does. And
Okay.
I don't want to get off topic from that, but like one of the anomalies I see is like roadside is time is money. So if I have and I had one a couple months ago, the gentleman driver is coming from Florida and he's trying to get to somewhere up the East Coast, but that trip should take him about 14 hours, combined over 2 days. Well, when I get him on the 4th day and I look and he's meandering up the coast slowly, what is he doing?
Yeah.
That's not illegal, but it's certainly something that piques my interest. The constant changing of tags, the constant temp registrations, the constant changing of DOT numbers, not illegal, but something that piques my interest, and nothing that will be, not taken with other evidence and other investigative tools when they're put together, where they paint a big picture. So yes, these things are all things that normal people would not do. It's all things that normal businesses would not do. And it's all things that, just tell you, and you don't need to be a police officer to, think that these things are odd or things that shouldn't be happening. It can be the same thing dockside, or it can be the same thing at your warehouse. It could be the same thing for brokers with the tools that they have to look into all these anomalies. I don't call them red flags because they could still be a legitimate company. But when you have a bunch of anomalies, is it time to slow down? Is it time to make a phone call and say, hey, what's going on with this here? We don't feel comfortable sending our cargo out with this person. And maybe the broker or maybe the carrier can explain these things. Same thing roadside with me. Hey, these things have piqued my interest. Can you give me some explanation? And they might go, sure. They might even go, we don't care. Officer, thank you very much. Send our cargo down the road. And as long as there's no safety concerns or there's no out of services, that person is going to be allowed to leave. But they're all little things that you can do in every aspect to build bridges and try and protect your cargo.
Yeah. As far as what you see, whenever you do see different anomalies and stuff like that, and you're asking them questions about it, have you noticed that like some people, I know one story that you guys were telling me was that like they would just be like, okay, yep, gig is up, they got me, and they'll just start being like, yeah, this is what happened, whatever. Does that happen more often than you would think, or is it where they're like they just try to play it off like, oh no, this is fine?
It's a lot of distancing, and it's a lot of deceitful statements. And as the interview or as the stop prolongs, the interview tactics that we're deploying out here on Roadside with the team are, they can't keep the lies straight. Nobody can ever keep
Right.
a lie straight. One lie, you might be able to repeat that and commit it to memory, but they're taking cargo from all over the place. So, as we're interviewing the driver, and eventually the driver, whether they know or not, or they're intertwined with the fraudulent activity, will begin to distance themselves from it. That's number one with the criminal element is as soon as they realize in their mind they think they've been caught, how can I minimize this liability for myself?
Gotcha.
And as my interview or as the team's interview is going on, okay, hey, now the anomalies are starting to become fact. We have them and we have this person in a lie. We have them in 3 lies. We're able to prove that this document is fraudulent or this is not where they're coming from. And it delves into all kinds of things, gas receipts, hours of service. Why are you taking your time?
Yeah.
So it goes a long way. And yes, I'll see the distancing. And we're very good at what we do. I don't want to say that we're the best, but the law enforcement officers that are dedicated to this, they're out there, 24 hours a day. There's officers that are at home receiving phone calls from these carriers or from these organizations that are like, look, we have stolen cargo. It's 1:00 in the morning. We can't get the patrol division doesn't know what we're talking about, or it's moving so
Yeah.
fast through county to county. That we have dedicated troopers and county officers or deputies and municipal guys that'll literally wake up out of bed, take that phone call, they'll get in their car and they'll go out and literally try and stop it. So the dedication is key, but
Totally.
we need that
Yeah.
aspect from the carrier or from the shippers to give us that information. And once we're given it, we can do a lot to mitigate the problems.
Yeah, I think just like how you guys are dedicated, I feel like shippers need to have that same dedication because many times when you guys are working something and you're trying to be like, hey, I need to know the pallet count or whatever, or I know like actual cargo theft divisions and stuff like the guys I know at CTIP in California, they'll be like, yeah, well, we raid a warehouse at 2 a.m. and then we see all these things, but we can't reach anybody. So then we have to just let it go because we don't have proof that it was stolen. And so it's almost like, I guess each shipper almost needs to have like a 1-800 cargo thefts hotline for them to be able to reach somebody because everybody, if something happens, it is not like they say like the first 48. It's, everything needs to be happening quickly. If you actually want to make a recovery or actually like find these guys, it happens so fast. So, and I'm sure on your end too, like if you stop somebody, you see something weird, you try making a phone call to a shipper, you can't even reach anybody. I mean, then you have to let them go, even though they've lied 10 times, right?
Danielle, let me stop you for 1 second. Hold
Yeah.
on. Rob, are you okay? I'm so sorry. They were blowing up. My partner's
No
with me
worries.
and they were blowing up our phones.
No, you're good.
Yeah, what were you? I'm sorry. What was the last question?
I think it was just about shippers needing to be able to get reached too. Like if you guys pull over somebody and you see like, hey, this guy's lied to me 10 times, something's up, and you're trying to reach somebody, you can't reach anybody. Technically, you have to send them down the road, right? Like you can't really hold unless if you can prove, like the shipper answers and says, yeah, this isn't right, stop or whatever. I guess I'm assuming that's kind of how that works.
Sure, absolutely. We're here to protect everybody, and we don't want to delay somebody or infringe on somebody's rights just because we don't think something's right. Like we need to have solid evidence. We need to have proof that we're doing the right thing, and to err on the side of caution to preserve those rights. I mean, sometimes we have to send stuff down the road. We might not like it personally, but and we might even find out later, whether it's 4 hours later, 6 hours, or 2 days later, that was actually a good stop where we had some stolen material, we had some narcotics, we had some issues. But yeah, the key is to do your due diligence when you're loading these carriers, have a good working relationship with your broker. Hopefully your broker has a good working relationship or can tell you, that they have a good working relationship with the carrier and be able to provide clear and concise information to law enforcement. And then to have that relationship prior to, the theft happening. You don't want to call 6 hours after your cargo is gone and be like, you know what, I want to meet a law enforcement officer that specializes in cargo theft, because I can tell you that's not going to happen. You're
Yeah.
going to get a patrol officer and they're going to take a report and if it's a weekend, you want to have those relationships prior, the time to, know things is prior. So that way you can, or your higher ups or people can make phone calls and then leave it to us to have a working relationship. If somebody in my area that has my information has some kind of theft or some kind of issue, and they realize it immediately and they can give me the information they need rather than just calling the non-emergency number and getting a patrol officer.
Yeah.
I have the ability to reach out to the vast network that you're in and be, hey, put it out and be like, look, this is what I got going on. Cargo's been missing for 90 minutes. It can't be much further than this here. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be heading there, and we can network together and, go from there. But it has to be done prior to these events happening. And if the shipper and the brokers and the carriers are willing to put in their due diligence and work, we can greatly reduce it. I mean, cargo theft's always going to be there, but we can take some of the burden off of it and, be able to reduce the theft dramatically.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Two other things I want to talk about. You mentioned before, like whenever it's not like a beauty thing to do cargo theft or DOT stops or whatever. That's not like the best, like when you get in law enforcement, that's not your dream area. But I do feel like there is some like the stories that I hear even from you and other people, it's like there are some like cool stories and cool things you guys run into. Like it is, you do sometimes end up with narcotic stuff, or you do sometimes deal with like human trafficking or like stolen freight and you're chasing a big rig down the road or whatever. I mean, that does still happen, even though it's not as often as I guess other divisions. But for those who are maybe an officer listening, maybe looking at like, well, what area should I get into? Why would you tell them to like, hey, look into doing this area and this is cool because of whatever?
So I love DOT inspections. I love being a truck enforcement officer. Again, the knowledge isn't out there, but I could tell you that when the young officers come on, it's either I want to be on SWAT, I want to be K9, the things that are glamorous and portrayed in movies. Law enforcement in every aspect is a lot of downtime or boring time followed by, 5 minutes of adrenaline.
Yeah.
So I like the back office work of really investigating and being able to prove that someone was lying and really being able to expose these things that aren't obvious. Like if you see somebody with a gun in a robbery at a store, everybody stops and they look and they see it, but there is so much theft and fraud and illegal activity passing everybody on the road every single day, and it's in plain sight. But you cannot figure it out unless you're willing to put the work in, unless you're willing to care. And life takes us all down different roads. I'm sure 15 years ago, you didn't think you were going to be doing a podcast on cargo theft.
Yeah, no.
15 years ago, I didn't think I was going to be a truck inspector investigating cargo theft.
Yeah.
But as you start to mature in your life and your career, there's a lot of different things that might open you up to an avenue that you never explored. So keep a broad mind when you get into this career. Realize that, there's a lot of different things and a lot of different ways you can help people, and you can help, your little portion of the country or your little section be better. So keep a broad perspective and really take the time to think and slow everything down. They tell us about, driving too fast to calls and getting killed or getting hurt or hurting somebody else. That's a tragedy. But also in your investigative techniques, make sure that you slow everything down. Listen to yourself, listen to the senior officers, and you might fall in love with something that you want to be part of. Or you might say, you know what, I really dislike this. There's things in my job that I dislike doing, and I would never try and advance where I take on more of that. Obviously, the trucking industry is what I love and being able to do. So have a broad mind, slow down. You have a long career ahead of you, and rely on, build a network. So that way in 5, 10, 15 years, whatever you love, whether it's, a network of K9 handlers, a network of SWAT operators, a network of truck inspectors or investigators. Build a good network where you can always call these people, but just take your time. You got a whole career ahead of you, and find something that you enjoy. If you enjoy police work, find something extra within police work because it's so broad that you truly enjoy, and pour yourself into it and make a good career out of it.
I feel like in order to be like a good DOT inspector or cargo theft, I guess it would be being like that investigator type of personality. Like you like to find like you said, it's not like the robbery that you're seeing it firsthand. Like you're the digger and you're that type of mindset. Would you say that's probably like the best type of people to enter in like your type of field, or is it a broad variety of personalities and things?
So, I mean, if you like being outside in 95-degree weather or 12-degree weather and getting dirty, Sure, but it's hard to tell. I mean, there's a whole broad spectrum of DOT inspectors, and some guys are really good at this because it all breaks down into the learning tree and different divisions. Just because you get into truck inspections doesn't mean you're going to be good at registrations
Yeah.
or good at cargo theft. You might be great at human trafficking because that's another subsection. But the mentorship is huge. There was a guy from a municipality a couple miles away from me. Great guy. He taught me everything I know about DOT inspections. He's retired now, but I truly, relied heavily on him. And he was rough on me in the beginning. He was a big dude, and I had to make a phone call, and I called the county. I'm like, yo, I need a DOT inspector. I was very early on. I get him on the phone. He's gruff. He's, what do you got? I tell him what I got. He rambles off something I have no knowledge of,
Yeah.
and he hangs up on me. And I call him back. I'm like, yo, explain this. He's like, you want to learn? He's like, be here on Thursday at 5 a.m. So I show up like 5 minutes early, and he's nowhere to be found. He rolls in about 2 minutes. He's already in his car. He's like, you're late. Let's go. So we go. And he put me through the ringer, but it was tough. He's like, get the books out, get the regulations out, find this, find that. So,
That's cool.
and we became lifelong friends from that. And, you really got to put the work in. And again, I'm still learning. I'm still out here every day learning something else. I hope that my peers think that I'm a good truck inspector. I hope that, the people that matter think that I'm a pretty reliable officer, but I'm still learning. And if I don't know the answer, that network is so critical where you got to call somebody. And if he doesn't or she doesn't know the answer, you sit down and figure it out together, where they might have a contact. So same things. I'm learning from you. I'm learning from the conferences we go to. I'm learning from the industry, and being able to see the other side of it is so incredible and so useful.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I know I always learn so much every time I meet one of you guys. I really appreciate your time and coming on. Like I said, invaluable information. Like I could just pick your brain forever. But thank you for all you do. Thank you for keeping our roads safe and doing all of that. I know that's a tough job, and you guys probably get yelled at a lot more than you guys deserve. So thank you for what you guys do. It means a lot. Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on. And if I hope somebody learned something, or we're able to, just from this information, prevent theft or create that bridge and, get some kind of working relationships going with other people in the country.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. Bye, everybody.